Welcome to another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. You're listening to a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State, featuring writer, poet, and musician Rick Pidcock. Now here's Rick.
Ken Paxton defeated Senator John Cornyn on Tuesday in the Texas Republican primary for this year's U.S. Senate seat. Cornyn has been in office for 24 years, which B&G's Mark Wingfield noted is more than double the average term of service of all modern U.S. senators, which most often serve 2 terms. But Paxton came with an endorsement from President Trump. And like Trump, he also came with a rather sordid history. Here's a montage of media coverage that was posted by an account called Team Talarico.
Remind us all, what is Attorney General Paxton accused of doing?
The list is really long.
Bribery, dereliction of duty, obstruction of justice,
and conspiracy. A majority of Texas House Republicans voted to impeach one of their own.
60 Republicans voting in favor. Allegations he abused his office to benefit himself and a major donor who allegedly paid for his home renovations and even helped him cover up an affair.
They claim the AG used secret email accounts, burner phones, and a fake Uber account to see his mistress.
Paxton is a repugnant character. He's always been on the edge of sort of criminal activity.
3 felony fraud charges which have lingered for 9 long years.
And in between it all, the state's top attorney had a mugshot.
There are calls for Ken Paxton to step down.
Ken Paxton is an extremely flawed candidate, and I sense the worst is yet to come about his background.
I can imagine some Republicans might dismiss this coverage due to it coming from the mainstream media and a Team Talarico account, but in Paxton's case, these are simply the facts. As B&G's Mark Wingfield wrote, the list of Paxton's transgressions is as long as a gang member's rap sheet. Similarly, B&G's David Bumgardner is a conservative, and he posted on Facebook yesterday, "I am praying for Angela Paxton today. I invite you to join me. Ken is an unrepentant serial adulterer who has wrought nothing but disaster and destruction in the lives of his family. I would not trust him to house sit for me, let alone serve as a United States Senator. This is not a Talarico endorsement." Paxton is going to face off against James Talarico, who Mark Wingfield described as a squeaky clean Presbyterian pastor who exhibits the best of the social gospel and left-leaning politics. Wingfield and Ben Cole discussed Talarico in episode 44 of B&G's Stuck in the Middle with You podcast. So what do the candidates have to say? Here's Talarico upon learning who his opponent will be.
Something just happened in Texas. The most corrupt politician in America just became the Republican nominee for the United States Senate. 3 years ago, Ken Paxton was impeached by his own party for using his public office to enrich himself and his donors at the expense of the people. That kind of corruption is the rot at the core of this broken system. It's why we can't afford anything. It's why we can't get ahead no matter how hard we work. For 50 years, mega donors and their puppet politicians like Ken Paxton have stolen from us with their bribes, their bailouts, and their billionaire tax breaks. Ken Paxton has gotten away with it. They've all gotten away with it. But that ends this year, in this state, in this race. If we, the people, can come together to defeat the most corrupt politician in America, we can defeat this entire corrupt system. We can start unrigging this economy. We can start raising our pay, cutting our taxes, lowering our costs. We can finally get ahead. It's time to come together. The people versus Ken Paxton.
Then Ken Paxton released this ad against Talarico. He said on X, "New ad, James Talarico is a threat to everything we hold dear. This is Texas, and we will fight to protect it."
This is Texas. This is not.
There are many more than 2 biological sexes. In fact, there are 6.
This is Texas. This is not.
The American flag is such a complicated symbol for most of us.
This is Texas. This is not.
They're going to call me a radical leftist.
This is Texas. This is not.
Something that you love that's not family or friends.
I love, I'm just saying this because it's on my mind, the trans children.
This is Texas. This is not.
Our southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front.
This is Texas. This is not.
It is now existential that we try to reduce our meat consumption. I am proud to say that our campaign has officially become a non-meat campaign.
This is Texas. This is not.
That last bit about running a meat-free campaign is what right-wing media is latching onto, along with some attacks about Talarico's looks. Here's Jesse Waters of Fox News on the 5.
So take it away.
Correction, it's Talarico.
Okay.
And they nominated someone more effeminate than Beto, and I can't wait for this race to get underway. Did you know that he looks prepubescent?
These are the notes you took?
Did you know that he looks like the guy that leaves an apple on the teacher's desk? That's this guy. Now, the major factor in this race, Greg, is whether Talarico's vegan.
Like, those are the only kind of Democrats that are going to succeed in Texas. It is not this baby lotion soft child. He looks prepubescent. Yes. He looks like such a beta male. He was Beto O'Rourke was his big brother in the after school program.
They'll say, but he's a seminarian. How dare you not?
He put the semen in seminarian as in naval, because if he were a Navy SEAL, it would help him.
All right.
He's also 37 and not married. Let's get into this. He says just recently that he has a girlfriend, and they've been together for 4 years. And he called her his best friend. And she was his rock. And he's not revealing her identity because he wants to respect her privacy and keep her safe during the campaign.
Does she live in Canada?
Now, if the campaign has only been going on for less than a year and they've been dating for 4 years, why haven't we ever seen this woman before? Basically, what I'm saying is this: she exists. We're going to find out, because if he wins, are they going to have a coming out party? Or is she still going to stay the secret girlfriend? And is this totally not fake girlfriend also a vegan?
I could share more clips of right-wing media questioning Talarico's sexuality, making fun of his looks and his food choices, but I think I'll choose to spare you instead. Here's how Talarico is responding to it.
And, I'm an eighth-generation Texan. I've been eating barbecue since before Ken Paxton's first indictment. And if all they have on me is lying about me being a vegan, I feel pretty good about our chances this November.
It's interesting how the right is jumping all over the vegan narrative, because for one thing, who cares what Talarico eats? But also, it's simply a lie. He eats meat. He's actually had ads that have shown him eating meat. He's just choosing for the sake of the environment not to have his campaign provide meat in the future. It's like the right doesn't understand how someone might refrain from indulging themselves in something they enjoy for a season for the sake of others. Which kind of makes sense that they wouldn't understand that given their choices of Trump and Paxton. But however Texans end up voting in November, the race is going to be pretty interesting to watch, not due to how people process Talarico's eating habits or dating life or looks, but due to how they respond to Talarico and Paxton's different religious messages. Talarico is a progressive Presbyterian, and Paxton is a conservative Southern Baptist, and both men claim their theology influences their politics. Diana Butler Bass posted on Substack, Talarico v. Paxton is going to be a straight-up religious argument between Christianity as a religion of love for neighbor and Christian authoritarianism. There's not been a public theological contest like this since the Scopes monkey trial. Her contrast between a religion of love for neighbor and Christian authoritarianism isn't a straw man. That's exactly what's going on here. Hierarchical Christianity is authoritarian Christianity because hierarchies exist in relationships of authority and submission, and that's what you get from the Christian nationalism of Paxton. On the other hand, there are other ways of embodying Christian theology in relationship to self and neighbor, and they can have profound impacts on our democracy. In 2024, I covered the Faith and Democracy Tour with Kristen Dumais, Jamar Tisby, Diana Butler Bass, and Robert P. Jones. One of their events I covered was at First Baptist Church of Greensboro, North Carolina. I wrote about it in a piece titled A Tale of Two Rallies on the Same Day in North Carolina. To demonstrate the difference between the Christianity they were promoting and the Christianity that authoritarian Christians are promoting, they discussed the illustration of a table, and more specifically, of a communion table. You may have noticed that I alluded to this illustration in one of the questions I asked Meredith Stone in our last episode. So in my piece, I wrote this. On the other hand, one of the most powerful themes of the Faith and Democracy Tour was about how a Christian theology of the table affects our experience of democracy. Jones shared an illustration of his memories about a set of dining room chairs around a table. It has 6 chairs, but one of the chairs is different than the rest, Jones described. It's made in the 1940s, and that chair can only fill the end of the table. It won't fit around the sides. It's called the captain's chair in these architectural terms, and it was made for the male head of the household to sit at the end of the table to preside over family dinner. Then Jones reflected, I think it's a good metaphor for the way white Christians in this country have thought of ourselves. Yes, some other people can come and bring up a chair, but we own the table, and we're sitting at the head of the table. The table is a theme that is dear to the heart of Bass, who is a member of the Episcopal Church. She noted how the table shouldn't be a hierarchical top and bottom table, but a round table, and an ever-expanding table. For Bass, the table is a great way to understand democracy as well. When we talk about the table can actually become a place of great sharing and malleability and openness, she said. And when we talk about it in terms of democracy, it's a vision of society as a table. In this metaphor, participation in a democracy is not about making yourself the head of the table, but instead pulling up more chairs to the table. So back to our story for today, this goes to the heart of the problem with politicians like Paxton. Beyond all the corruption in his particular story, the authoritarian Christian right is demanding to be at the head of the table. And they're only letting the people pull up a chair who will submit to them and stroke their leader's ego enough. And notice the things the right criticizes Talarico for. He's running in Texas and doesn't want his campaign to provide meat. He calls God non-binary. He says, I love trans kids, and says there are 6 genders. To conservatives, all this sounds weird. But what Talarico is trying to do is to invite his neighbors to pull up a seat at the table. If you're a woman in a world where the Al Mollers are trying to say you can't even talk on a podcast, Talarico says, pull up a seat at the table. If you're gay in a world where conservatives say you can't ever let your face be shown on TV, Talarico says, pull up a seat at the table. If you have genitals that are typical of both male and female bodies, including having both ovarian and testicular tissues simultaneously, or have chromosomes that are different from what would be expected for your physical appearance, Talarico says, pull up a seat at the table. And whatever genitalia you have or don't have, whatever chromosome pairings you have or don't have, Talarico says the image of God is reflected in you because God isn't literally a man. Talarico is simply looking around at who gets excluded from authoritarian Christians, and he's telling them, you also belong. That's healthy theology and healthy democracy. It's only weird to those who value hierarchy and exerting power over their neighbors who aren't exactly like them. But to conservatives, it's the end of the world. Or at least, it's the end of their world because their table requires a captain's chair, made up of straight white conservative men, and includes the exiling of all who won't bend the knee to them. And that is what is driving many of us away from the church. After Paxton won the primary, David Gushee wrote on Substack, nothing creates post-evangelical young adults faster than their experience of watching their evangelical parents and grandparents do things like vote for Ken Paxton and claim Christian grounds for doing so. What he said is true. While places like Desiring God and the Gospel Coalition claim we're just a bunch of worldly people who are out having sex with hundreds of people, the reality is that we're simply tired of their captain's chairs that control and exclude people. We've seen the through line from the theological root to the ethical fruit, and we've finally recognized how it's all speaking the same language. So, as conservatives complain about how so many people are leaving their churches and political party, it's not actually due to a rise in secularization. It's due to us having the values that Talarico is demonstrating. Values of self-awareness and neighbor awareness. values of loving one's neighbor as self, and then inviting them to pull up a seat at the table. And it's due to us realizing that such a mindset is impossible on the right. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, and rate us on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll be back with another episode on Monday.
This has been another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. The episode you've just heard is part of a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State. Be sure to follow BNG daily at baptistnews.com and subscribe to get notifications about future episodes. Baptist News Global is a national nonprofit news service that is independent, free, and faithful. BNG is supported by readers and listeners like you. Learn more at baptistnews.com.
This episode was produced and edited by Mac Bowles of TKG Communications, LLC, Dallas, Texas.